Automation is a core concept in forward-thinking manufacturing. Now, 1 year ago, we purchased the Haas Robot Pallet Loader. And in this video, I'm gonna talk about a little bit more depth of why we bought it, what we're making with it, what we've changed to make it work with our specific workflow, and what you should look for if you're considering automation in your shop. Let's get started. So let's start off with answering the question, why did we purchase this? Now, in our workflow, we use our Pro pallet systems, our Pro and our Max 4 pallet systems to just absolutely destroy first op work. Like we're doing multi-part, high density work holding. With our Max 4, we're rotating it, we're doing multi-sides, even our RotoVice. That's great, but we found that the bottleneck, the new bottleneck, was second op work. So we've made a very defined push towards going lights out. Of course, one of my favorite automations is a bar-fed lathe. Simple one-axis robot, right? It just feeds bars. When we went with our EC400, that allowed us to fill a large pallet pool, 7 pallets specifically, with 4 sides. So horizontal is like a giant RotoVice, right? It's just horizontal. We had so many parts coming off and they're getting produced lights out, that the bottleneck during the day shift was the second op work, which most people are going to put in a double vise. And if you've got good work stops, good solid work setup, you can actually dial in parts pretty accurately. It's great. But when you're working with robots and automations, you're relying on the accuracy of, number 1, the robot to put it in the right spot. Number 2, the cleanliness of jaws. Number 3, just the rigidity and the reliability of the entire setup. So Robot Pallet Loader from Haas had an out-of-the-box solution that the number 1 thing, because I know there's lots of options out there, we even have some universal robots, the number 1 thing that we've learned in automation is that it's easy to program it to do exactly what you want to do, but the friction is what should the automation system do when not everything is perfect. So that means chips, closed doors, parts, or raw material that are not the ideal size. So anyone that's run automation, I'm pretty sure they would agree with me, it's the anomalies that are the big gotchas. So anytime we can have a solution that is literally a bolt-on, plug-and-play solution from one manufacturer, that's always a win. Now, when it comes to this whole setup was literally pallet loaded into place, positioned, and then the calibration between the pallet loader and the machine is done after installation. So you would have the Haas 0-point system behind me. They installed an auto door and then it drops it off, and then the calibration is done by the technician at time of installation. So that would be on the software side of it. Now, because we have worked with third-party automation systems, you're going to have the machines control and you're going to have the automation systems control. In this case, known as pendants, handheld pendants. This uses a FANUC-based robot, which have been around for a long time. They're kind of ubiquitous when it comes to robots. You see them everywhere. You see them in big car factories. Large selection, but also because they want to be like one size fits all, or one robot type fits any type of application. They're pretty complicated in programming them. That's where like solution like Universal Robot or any of the third-party things that most big manufacturers are integrating, so much easier, because if you can program your automation system at the control and have a single human machine interface, that's ideal. So for the bolt-on plug-and-play application, it was a no-brainer. The other thing was easy integration. So I think the hardest automation is working with raw material. So if a robot picks up a piece of raw material and it loads it into like an automated hydraulic pneumatic vise or something like that, you introduce all these potential anomalies. So with this, working with a known interface like pallet, cleat, robot, picking it up, that's a known entity that doesn't change. It's out of the work envelope. Chips aren't an issue. Coming into a 0-point system that we had to do some significant improvements to, I'll talk about that next, going to that same position, that's easy automation. The hard part of properly locating the parts on your fixture, on your pallet, happens by humans, which us humans are really good at. it happens at the load station. And then of course, we always will be an advocate for high density work holding, cuts down on spindle time, travel time. It's the future, right? So you pair up human loaded parts, high density work holding, known clamping positions, it's a win all the way around. Now let's talk about some things we changed. So for example, the 0-point system, perfectly fine. It's been pretty good. But one of the things that we struggled with is chip management. One of the aftermarket things that we've added is our air knives to the sides of the spindle. Easy, great bolt-on kit that can sweep parts. But what we were finding was that when it would pull a pallet off, there would be coolant that would drip on the bottoms because the bottom is exposed. That's as different from our Pro Pallet system. Our Pro Pallet system has a face seal gasket, so the critical clamping and contact areas is outside of the coolant and chip zone. This doesn't have that. So the first thing we did was we installed an air knife that fires when the auto door opens. So the auto door is pneumatically operated. So when the robot sends the signal to open it, then we have a pneumatic blow off that can power it. That's one thing. But if the robot is slow and that door is open, it's gonna be just dumping air. So now we've just run it in line with our spindle mounted air knife, and we just do some of the blow off immediately after the cycle, then the robot does it. We found that to be a good medium, kind of like good enough, where it blows chips off of the bottom of the pallet. Then when it comes out the door, we won't have any issues. Now, speaking of chips, let me show you the robot side because we have some big problems with that, but we solved them. Let's take a look. Okay, I e-stopped the machine, so we're gonna enter the danger zone. The nice thing about this is it has a light curtain, not a cage, so easy visibility. It has an emitter and a sensor, and then it has mirrors that bounce the light curtain beam. So let's talk about our modifications to the safety aspect. So light curtains in this case is what guards the machine. These are not cobot machines. They will go through you with enough force to seriously injure you if you enter the robot's working area. So light curtains are just simply from 0 to 6.5 feet, a beam of lights that when you break it, it alarms out not just the robot, but the machine too. Remember, they're integrated. One of the things that's required is that you position these because they're bouncing off 2 mirrors and there's a receiver and emitter. It's bouncing around. And then if you move these, it can go out of alignment. So they recommend bolting them down. But here, if you've watched the channel, we've got these beautiful epoxy floors. So let me show you what we did. So as you can see, the off-the-shelf light curtain has this flange. Haas mounted it to this flange, not sure why, but that's how it came, with the intention of 4 bolt holes that go straight into the concrete. But as you can see, what we did here is we 3D printed some basically like corner guides. Now this did 2 things. It makes it so, of course, we're not drilling into the epoxy. Second thing is, if you ever bump this, it's gonna be compliant and it's just gonna go out. It's not gonna go out of alignment or break or bend or anything like that. It's simply going to move out of the way. Also, if you wanna clean, you just get in there. If you ever wanted to move it, you're not gonna have to patch your epoxy floors. You just pull this up. The adhesive is some VHB tape, very high bond. And in this case, we have 2. We have some others that have 4, but really 2 is all you need. So this was a big win when it came to mounting these light curtains in a low impact way. The spot in where I'm standing is kind of like the motion zone, like obviously the no-go zone. What we discovered is every time this would open and close, you would pull out a pallet that would be dripping. It would have chips that may be stuck that would eventually fall off when the pallet would make motion. We would most often see chips on the top, and when it would swing like this, they would fall off the pallet. So this was just absolutely filthy all through here. And I don't want people in this space. Ideally, we just minimize, like we're a lean manufacturer. One of the lean wastes we're trying to eliminate is over processing. Why clean as much when you could clean little? We want to operate in that capacity. So this area got very dirty, very sticky. You're not supposed to grab pallets off of the front. We don't do that. Off the back, they advise not to. They advise pulling it from the shelf to the load station. So the human never interacts with this part. That's great. But just because we're not in this area doesn't mean we don't want it clean. So what we did is we found a couple of unused threaded holes in the casting on the base of the Fanuc robot. And one of my guys, Paul, he modeled up kind of a bracket. And what we did is we just took like an off-the-shelf industrial restaurant grade of baking pan, and it perfectly hooks in and easily hooks in and stays in place under the robot. So because it's at the hip joint of the robot, where it rotates, this pan is always in place. For example, it goes over there. If it does fall, nothing happens. It doesn't collide either. That was one of the things that we wanted to make sure that never happened, that this pan would collide with anything, and it doesn't. So this has been a huge win for us. All you do is you take it off, dump it out, wipe it, wash it down, back in business. So the pallet situation out of the box is, I would deem, interesting. We received, it's either 5 or 10 pallets. I'm pretty sure it was 5 pallets. Now, just know that at the time of filming, things have changed with this. We've owned it for over a year, like I said. But the pallets here are about an inch thick. So, and then I think it came with 5. We purchased 10 more for a total of 15. You can't really do much with a pallet that's 1 inch thick. In fact, our pallet systems, the minimum thickness off the shelf is 1.5 inches. We want people sinking parts into it or putting them on top. What we had to do, because we're using different types of clamps, our rocker clamps, which are high bite, high force work holding clamps, you could easily deform a 1 inch pallet with a 3/4 inch rocker clamp at maximum torque. That's just a fact. So what we did is we bought 1.5 inch material, and we used the Haas pallets as master pallets, and then created a standardized bolting pattern, and then bolted them in from the bottom up into our sacrificial pallet and designed our fixtures into that. The other thing is the interface on these pallets works with the Haas 0-point system. We wanted it to be more friendly to use in our ecosystem. In our ecosystem, the robot or automation ready pallet system that we've developed is our Max 4. We've got them on UMCs, we've got them on rotaries. In fact, it's supposed to be attached ideally for a rotary, like a 4th axis. And then you could do multi-sided work holding, multi-part, multi-sided. I'll post a link in the description below for video of the Max 4 overview. However, we wanted to be able to take parts off of this. We want to put it on our CMM, which has a Max 4 base on it. If we wanted to do parts that have perimeter work, like at multiple angles, we wanted to take this off and put it on a Max 4 on a rotary. So when it came to versatility, do we buy the bigger, bulkier, higher air level needs of the Haas 0-point? Probably not. There's a reason why we developed our solutions. We want it to be the best, the world class. Speaking of the 0-point system, it has a brake booster. So your shop pressure, what it does is it pressurizes a little tank. The incoming shop pressure drives a piston that somewhat doubles the incoming shop air pressure. And when you turn it on, you hear it. You hear this little piston thing. It's not a big deal, but it is a requirement because this uses air pressure to lock it. Whereas our pallet system are fail safe. They only use air pressure to release the spring loaded, not to do the locking. So some changes that we're in the process of making here, adapting it to our Max 4 system. We're probably realistically a couple months away from fully swapping everything out. It does require recalibrating where the robot goes in to the load unload spot in both the machine and the load station. The friction is that Haas locks down some of these parameters, which is the next thing that I want to talk about. Now, what you gain in simplicity in an integrated setup, you also give up in control. So this is interesting. Let me show you how you calibrate the pallet setups. What you do is you tell it, at least how ours works, you tell it where position A1 is, and then you tell it the number of columns, in this case 5, and then the number of rows. Then you tell it the distance between columns and then the distance between rows. So you tell it like A1, and then you physically measure, and we did it, it's got some tolerance, maybe 1/8 inch or so, where it self-aligns, but you physically move the seat over and put the next pallet in place based on a distance that you mark out with a ruler or a scale or maybe calipers. And then you literally unbolt the shelves and you adjust it down, the spacing that you put in this. Now, that's kind of backwards. What you would do is you would space them out, all three, get them dialed in, then input that measurement. But the side to side, you definitely have to use like a ruler to get them like in the right position. There are some things that we wished we could override, like when it enters the work cell, does it go higher or lower when it comes to the door? That's kind of hard coded. And what we found and what technicians have told us is that's a factory setting that can be overridden, but they don't allow the users to do that. So if we've got a fixture that has a really tall pallet, we can't adjust that, buyer beware. While we're in the screen, it has a lot of the same things that sold us on the EC400 pallet pool. It's basically a pallet schedule table. So it's got all 1 through 15 pallets where you can tell it what jobs, you can mix and match jobs. You can change the order, what it does. The robot motion setup, which is, these are the things that you can easily change. The speed, so when we first had it set up, we thought like on a scale of like 1 to 100, we're like, hey, let's run, 70%. It was uncomfortably fast, where we think over time, the arm whipping around would have shifted the platform itself. Yes, you're supposed to bolt it down, or you can bolt it down. We opted not to, again, because we have beautiful floors we don't want to drill into. But if we ever wanted to move the machine, it'd be one of those things that we just want that flexibility. We have it set at 30. I think the pickup drop-off speed, I don't remember that scale. We have it set at 5, and I think that was 0 through 25, if I remember correctly. Workstation, load station, and pallet station. So workstation is behind us. Load station is where the operator stands, and then the pallet station, those are the individual pickups. And then you can tell them the values. It doesn't show the value, you just position it and you're like, this is where I want it. After jogging it in, you record it. Over here, pallet station setup, I talked about that. This is a touch screen, so you can go in and you can touch and you can tell like what pallet you want to customize, kind of nice. And then some other things that like if you did change the end effector, you would tell it the new mass, the overall speed, and then you would never change the gripper output channels. They're number 1 and 2. So they've kind of simplified it, which we appreciate, but if you ever wanted to do some custom tweaking, it would be a little bit more cumbersome. This is the load station. This is where we would make some significant changes. We're not sure how we want to do it, but I'm going to show you some of the issues we have with this. Now, any seasoned veteran operator takes the air gun, they open the door part way, and then they blow so that they don't get splashed. It does that. But in this case, where do the chips go? They go right back into the robot area. And so for us, like, you do this to contain the chips in the load station. And by the way, this is a load station that's identical to the load station on our EC400. So I really like, from an engineering standpoint, reusing parts that brings the cost down. But then what are you blocking the door with? Well, we have a saying around here: if it's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly. So we don't want to get chips on us. So my guy, he created this cardboard shield with a little like glass, literally plastic glass.
Okay, Editor Jay here. I want to clarify this point that I just made. Yes, if it's worth doing poorly. This is too important of a catchphrase to gloss right over. So number one, what that doesn't mean is we're okay with mediocre. Like, we want beautiful products. We want beautiful processes. We want take it to the 9s, totally. Like, that's our thing. However, what we've found is that in the pursuit of making improvements, it's very common for people to not move forward because they're trying to make it perfect or come up with the right plan. This is a perfect example, great learning opportunity for us noticing a problem and then going, how can we fix it? Now, of course, we go to, like, we're engineers and machinists. We go to like awesome, great ideas, automated doors, air curtains, metal things that come into place, like this really cool stuff. But what we did is we just started with a cardboard piece of paper with a cutout, just like a shield, like my kids would have when they're playing in the backyard, that type of thing. And then once we showed that that actually worked, then we went to this white plastic corrugated shield, which is in use today. It hooks right on, you can blow, it's great. In the future, will we make another improvement so that we have a more robust, kind of like a more uniform look? Yes, absolutely. But the big lesson in this section is don't delay from making improvements. It's been said that perfection is the enemy of progress. This is a perfect illustration of what we did to move forward and just saying, hey, if it's worth it, let's do it, and understand and normalize that it's not going to be great as the first attempt. Back to the video.
But just to shield it so you could have it fully open, because this doesn't, it has a, don't mind the squeak, but it has a gas spring that it either wants to be all the way closed or all the way open. Again, it's meant to collect chips here. So keeping it all the way open, little shield, blowing it off. That's our workaround. But yeah, ideally you should be able to have this like something that shields it when you're blowing it off as an operator. But overall, it does the job. Is it perfect? Far from perfect. Is it usable day one? I don't think so. You're gonna create a terrible mess. So it just takes a little bit of like light blowing, maybe. Otherwise, it does the job, it's okay. I would think that this needs a redesign, and maybe I would be willing to pay more to have a dedicated robot pallet loader tending station personally. So what did we change? Well, some of you eagle-eyed viewers would notice these very obvious orange things. We have one here, and we also have one behind me in the 0-point system. So one of the things that we realized could happen and may or may not have happened is that a pallet would come in when there's a plug that goes in the 0-point system, they would be loaded. So in order to not make that mistake, we made some very thin, flimsy, crashable, kind of like discs that go onto the 0-point plug. And then we have this other thing where these are actual sensors. So we have kind of an in-house electrical engineering team, which is great. We just made some 3D prints with switches that when you pull off the cover, you rest it here. And then that one would be taken out and it rests here. That, when both are in place, that means, hey, the 0-point is open and we can actually run parts. Some other things we've changed is what I've already shown you, but really the big question of all the little tweaks we've made and the idiosyncrasies we've experienced, would I buy it again? Well, I would say the answer to that is yes, I would purchase this again. So list price, this is a 6-figure piece of equipment, about maybe at this time, at time of shooting, might be around 120,000. I know that the latest one has 2 shelves. So to go from 15 to 30 shelves or pallets is pretty darn amazing. Again, I said the bolt-on is fantastic. The setup was a little bit more cumbersome. They removed the right-hand window and added a Haas auto door. I mean, that's a necessity. You don't want to go aftermarket on that. It was about a 3-day setup, but really if you're concerned about like how long a machine is down in order to put automation, that's just like the wrong type of scope. You really want to have the automation be a long-term solution. Who cares if it's down for even a week? So yeah, I would buy it again. It's a great price point. It's easy to integrate. We've been really happy. If Haas just made continual improvement integrations, like maybe thicker pallets, the parameters and settings, open those up just a little bit, it would be a no-brainer. But as of 1 year later, we're happy with it and would definitely purchase it again. So if you enjoy this type of content, we're more than just automation and manufacturing. We do Fixture Friday. I have a Q&A where I talk about how I took my business from one man, one machine in a garage, scaled it up to a lean factory. So if you're not yet subscribed, please consider it. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next automation video when it comes out. So until next time, go innovate your production.